Hello and welcome back to coverage here at GP Atlanta. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Paulo Vitor Damarosa, and we are all set for round number 2, where we have Kendra Smith facing off against Steven Peets. Naya Zoo is what Steven's called his deck here, or as he put it on his deck list, 8-Night Naya. That's a long week. Facing off against Kendra Smith, who is on much more traditional build here. She's on humans, kicks things off with the champion of the parish. But a good start for Steven as well with Noble Hierarch to get things rolling. He's got a Stomping Ground here on turn number 2, giving him access to 3 mana, and we could see one of his 8 knights right away, Knight of the Reliquary, or if he wanted to, he could just run out a Knight of Autumn.
Yeah, and Knight of Autumn only has one target in this matchup, and that's Aether Vial. And Kendra didn't play Aether Vial turn 1, so she very likely doesn't have it, though her land is an Ancient Ziggurat, so she could just not have a land that taps for artifact mana.
Ooh, look at this start from Steven. Throws a Tarmogoyf and a Wild Nacatl on the battlefield. Now, the Goyf a little awkwardly.
Yeah, that is a
minimum.
That is less power than the number of creatures he has in play.
Indeed.
At this point, so it is a board that could look very impressive. And kind of does because there are foils and alternate arts, but as far as actual power goes, it's a bit lacking.
It is indeed. Kendra's probably not going to help Steven out in that category either, as the humans deck not known for filling up the yard particularly quickly, though Steven is playing fetch lands and such, so he may be able to get at least something going with that Goyf. In the meantime, Thalia's Lieutenant hits the battlefield, which is going to get a couple of counters on the champion of the parish, and she's just going to send it into the red zone right away. No good blocks here for Steven, so he's going to be forced to just take the 3 damage. And Kendra's going to pass the turn back. So both players using up all their mana, at least in the early stages.
Yeah, that is what you have to aim for with this type of deck in Modern. You have to, keep going. You can't fall too far behind. They're both trying to race at this point. But there are removal spells from the Naya deck. There's Lightning Bolt and Path. But yeah, not many different types for Tarmogoyf either. Tarmogoyf is a card that, sometimes you play it because your deck can really make it big, and sometimes you play it because you think other people are going to help you. And this seems to be more the other people are going to help me variety. Decks like Dredge and the new Mono Red deck of the Battleland Revelers. Those decks will make your Tarmogoyf very big for you. But I would expect Steven Tarmogoyfs to be, basically 3/4 max.
Okay.
He doesn't even have any sorcerers. Right, he can throw an end in the graveyard, he can throw an instant in the graveyard pretty easily, and a creature will probably die, and that's it. Actually, that is the max he can grow his Tarmogoyf himself. It is into a 3/4.
Okay. Well, this one's a 1/2.
Yeah.
And it is in the red zone. He decided to attack with that rather than just the Wild Nacatl.
And yeah, it makes me wonder if he wouldn't be better off with, Watch Wolf.
Could be interesting. There's a Knight of the Reliquary, though, for Steven, and we know how quickly that creature can grow. Oh, look at that. He's got a Tarmogoyf for us. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. And Kendra is in an awkward spot regarding her lands here because she has 2 Horizon Canopies, which both, damage you a lot and also don't cast Mantis Rider.
Oof.
It is very rare that, not that rare, I guess, but it's not common that you have 3 lands and you cannot cast Mantis Rider since you have so many lands that give 5 colors. But she does have 2 of them here, so she cannot do it. And she's taking a lot of damage.
She's taking a lot of damage, but she's also really curving out here. There's another champion of the parish. The original ones now has 3 counters, and look at this. A Kitesail Freebooter is going to reveal, well, there's a Scavenging Ooze and a Knight of Autumn, it looks like, for Steven.
Yeah, so basically just bodies.
Right.
And there is another Reliquary there. There is a 3/3 right now. It can become a 5/5 if it takes a turn off to find a fetch land. Is there anything interesting to search for? There's 1 Stirring Wildwood, 1 Ghost Quarter, and 1 Cassick Wolfrun. So Cassick Wolfrun probably the card that... No, never mind.
Cancel that order.
Yeah.
It looks like he's just going to go ahead and trade off Knight of the Reliquary here. In the meantime, he does take 4 extra damage, though.
And now Tarmogoyf is a 2/3.
Ooh, almost maximum.
Yeah.
So, Steven, you mentioned it before, looking to race here, and we'll see if he can If you can sort out how to do that.
There is one thing that is baffling to me in Steven's deck, and that
What do
there
you
is
see?
no Horizon Canopy in it.
Really?
So it is a green-white deck, and that normally would already want Horizon Canopy, but it's also a Tarmogoyf and Knight of the Reliquary deck. So I would think that you'd have at least one to search for with your Knight if you have a lot of lands and you can stack. But interestingly, there is none. So
Somebody needs to hit the trading table there, Steven. And, he does have a lot of foils and stuff. Maybe he just couldn't find a
foil
pretty
Horizon
enough
Canopy.
Horizon Canopy for his taste. He's going to run out the Scavenging Ooze here. Very valuable tool when it comes to racing. You can see there's already a couple of creatures lurking in the graveyards there. And it could make life very difficult for Kendra.
yeah, it can grow into a 4/4 right now, and 2 life in this racing situation is pretty relevant.
Steven down to 9, but Kendra's life total's been following quickly. She's down to 8.
Yeah, I mean, the game looks pretty even right now. It's really hard to... It really could go either way.
Yeah, it feels like Steven has a little bit more tools at his disposal because he has the Knight of Autumn in his hand, but so it looks like the Kitesail Freebooter is going to get at least something out of the deal. Oh, there's Path to Exile in hand, though, for Steven. That was the card that he drew last time, and things are starting to look much better for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, the game is in a spot where Steven can't really attack if Kendra doesn't attack. But now he actually can. Though, not with a lot of things, either. I guess the Wild Nakado can, trade with the Champion of the Parish. And the Tarmogoyf is finally a 3/4, so we have reached maximum Tarmogoyf here. Unless Kendra decides to throw an Aether Vial in the graveyard.
Yeah. Now, Kendra will have named the Knight of Autumn with this Meddling Mage. Again, the Kitesail Freebooter whiffed when it entered the battlefield, but she did get the information about the 2 creatures that he had in hand, so now she can use that information with the Meddling Mage. So not a complete brick.
Yeah, casting Death Path to Exile is interesting because, Kendra is very likely naming Knight of Autumn anyway.
Right.
So at this point, you would rather make her attack. And
without that knowledge.
Yeah, it makes it harder to attack because your Scavenging Ooze can grow bigger and you can chump block with your double Hierarch. Now you can't. And, she might make an attack hoping that you don't have Path, and then you go ahead and do it and you blow her out.
Right.
But at least you get rid of Exalted. Like right now, the Exalted thing is happening. But at the same time, if she just decides to name Path to Exile, you just lose the game. Right? If she thinks this Knight of Autumn is not going to be relevant, I'm going to name Path to Exile because it's the card that beats me. Then you just lose the game on the spot, and you don't really want to do that. So it's a tough decision here for Steven.
Six life apiece for our 2 players. Steven's surveying the scene. He's got that Knight of Autumn kind of set aside, face down. That is, of course, what the Meddling Mage has named.
Yeah, and now Steven has 3 attackers. Any 2 of them are lethal. So I think he's just in a good position here. In fact, I don't know if Kendra could even have afforded to attack here the way the board lies. Because she doesn't really have good blocks. She's probably just going to have to chump block twice. Because if she double blocks the Wild Nakado with the Meddling Mage and the Kitesail Freebooter, which would normally be a good block, she just frees up the Knight of Autumn, and then Steven can either get a 4/3 or gain 4 life and just never winning the race again.
What does a win look like for Kendra from this point?
Well, she has to draw a Reflector Mage.
Okay.
Right, and she gets rid of the double Hierarch, and then she...
Did she win on the spot? 3, 4, 5, 6? Yeah.
Well, there are 2 creatures in the graveyard, so Steven can go up to 8 life.
Oh,
and
sure.
Yeah, that won't even win the game because Reflector Mage will only grow Chamber of the Parish once. So I don't think...
So not quite there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think... She has to have Reflector Mage plus a 1-drop human to win the game.
That's a tough sell.
Yeah. It doesn't look like she has either.
Steven Peets looks like he's in really good shape to pick up game number 1 here. Kendra on the mulligan, if we remember back to the early parts of the game, and seems to have run out of gas a bit here.
Yeah, and those Horizon Canopies really hurt Kendra, the fact that she drew 2, and those were her only lands. Because if she was at 1 more life, she would actually be able to take the damage from one of those creatures, and then she would have a bigger board to maneuver. But as it is, yeah, I think she kind
This is
of
desperation mode now for Kendra.
she kind of maneuvered herself into a spot where I don't think she can win. I think she maybe would have had to sit back a little bit with that.
Yeah, she's going to play a
4/4
Thalia's
champion.
Lieutenant here. She drew a Mantis Rider off of the Horizon Canopy, which she can't cast currently. So she's going to have to settle for a Thalia's Lieutenant and then just pass a turn back. Steven's going to get to goblin up some creatures out of the graveyard here with his Scavenging Ooze.
Shouldn't that champion be one bigger? Because she
Yeah.
played Lieutenant, and
Yep.
it was a 4/4, right? So now it should be a 6/6. So it looks like she just missed the champion trigger. But yeah, the Ooze is pretty big here too. Like it's going to get to attack as a 6/6 and potentially a 7/7. So here, Steven can just attack. I mean, if he just attacks with Ooze, let's see what happens. So it gets to be a 7, so it'll probably... I imagine it'll have to be double blocked. Yeah, this attack will just... It will kill everything on the board, except for the Ooze and the Champion of the Parish.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty reasonable spot.
And also whichever one Kendra decides to. It won't kill the... it won't kill the Mahara, obviously. And then Steven will get to play the Knight of Autumn that we know he has. So still a good position for him. And now that makes the Ooze really big.
Yeah, also, of course, buffers Steven's life total further, making it that much more difficult to race. Now the way is clear for this, by the way, a Knight of Autumn. And, well, interestingly, he's going to actually just go ahead and go for the counters on that.
Yeah, it doesn't even need the life anymore. He's at 8, and there are
guess.
plenty of creatures in the graveyard. He can go up to 10.
It is a lethal attacker on its own, even without the counters, though I suppose it could be a better attacker if Kendra deploys another creature to the board.
Yeah, if she plays something like a Meddling Mage,
Sure.
or a Mantis Rider, then that means the Knight can actually attack through it, and I think that is better.
Anything left for Kendra? Can she mount any type of comeback here? It feels like no.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably just going to have to play, she can play Mantis Rider now. Then she attacks for 3, and then she will have to chump block the Scavenging Ooze with the Mantis Rider, and then she's probably going to die next turn. She does have Phantasmal Image. Oh,
Okay, she's got Militia Bugler here.
well, so does she actually have a Mantis Rider in hand?
Yeah.
That's weird. 'Cause I don't think this is really a winning line. But I guess the other line wasn't really winning either. Like, I was thinking she could, actually block with the Champion of the Parish. But yeah, she's in a really tough spot, but she could win. It would probably involve multiple Reflector Mages. Which is,
Chaining a few of those together. Maybe that's why she played the Bugler
yeah,
here.
no, that makes sense to me. Because she was not racing anyway, because the Scavenging Ooze, she can deal 9 damage, and the Scavenging Ooze would bring Steven's life total for more than that. So it makes sense that she's going to try to find Reflector Mage. If it's chump blocking anyway, right, you might as well. And yeah, the game, she has to find Reflector Mage to win here.
Champion of the Parish is just huge.
This is a weird attack by Steven. I feel like he just threw Knight of Autumn in the graveyard.
Yeah, he kind of did.
Yeah, so actually if Kendra finds Reflector Mage, like the Ooze will still be able to grow pretty big after the bounce, but it does take a turn to replay it, so I think she can actually win this.
Oh my goodness. There's Athalia's Lieutenant. Okay, attack. Steven's going to go ahead and chump block and then add green mana to eat the Militia Bugler, gain a life. He's back up to 10, takes no damage for this turn. But she has a blocker now for the Scavenging Ooze,
Yeah,
and he's out of gas.
Yeah, I think we're in a spot where, if she just draws 2 creatures and he draws nothing, then she's going to win, and she has 2 cards in hand. We know one of them is Phantasmal Image. Also interesting that he chump blocked with Nubble there. I guess it grows the ooze one bigger, and the champion is never really going to be lethal anyway in one attack because he's going to gain so much life from the ooze. But I think she actually has the advantage here.
What in the... How did she fight her way back? She just sort of kept playing a creature every single turn, and that Champion of the Parish, you know, she did miss one trigger earlier, so it could actually be even bigger, but it's been big enough to just force a bunch of blocks here, and it also ate 2 creatures.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of, you know, a bunch of things. One thing is that Steven kind of...
Wow, Steven's going all in on this ooze as well.
Yeah, I don't know
this is
he
a
actually
little,
has to.
Right, remember, I mean, maybe if he just loses to Reflector Mage, what's the difference? But he may want to think about maybe if he draws another copy of Scavenging Ooze, something like that. You know, making this thing a 15-15 or whatever is not any different than a 2-2. Oh, Lightning Bolt upstairs for Steven Pete says, I'll just do this the easy way.
Yeah, but I really like how Kendra played that game. I think she identified that, you know, she wasn't really racing, and she just had to find Reflector Mage. And the more that I think about her Bugler play there, the more I like it. I think the other line would just be, you know, conceding defeat, so to speak. And I think her line was actually better. Ultimately, it didn't work out. But
that was a weird ending.
Yeah.
He decided that instead of fussing around with all these creatures, I'll just do it the easy way. Send a Lightning Bolt upstairs. So Steven Pete's going to take down game number 1.
Yeah, and I think, you know, do we actually get to see merge sideboarding here? Probably not, because this type of deck usually has cards like, you know, Stony Silence, Talia. He has Blood Moon as well, Graveyard Hate, Choke, but nothing really against humans.
Mm-hmm. By the way, chat has decided that Lightning Bolt is the best card of all time.
Wow, that's so wrong.
What do you think's the best card?
Probably. I mean, on power level alone, probably Ancestral Recall. In terms of everything, probably, you know, Black Lotus.
The blue Lightning Bolt?
Yeah, the blue Lightning Bolt is better. Lightning Bolt is not even... It's the 3rd best Lightning Bolt. I think the black Lightning Bolt is also better than the red Lightning Bolt. That's Dark Ritual.
Okay.
The colorless one may be Mana Vault.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
But Lightning Bolt is really good.
I like how somehow Mana Vault has become the colorless Lightning Bolt in our conversation.
It is, right? I thought...
I guess so.
Doesn't I thought it was just common
You
knowledge.
thought that was known? No, that was...
Yeah, I didn't make that up, you know. I thought it's just what it is. Yeah, I think, it's pretty clear that I think Ancestor is the best one, Healing Solve is the worst one, and then, you know, Giant Growth after Healing Solve, and then it gets murky with Lightning Bolt, Dark Ritual, and Mana Vault, I think.
But Ancestral clearly number 1 for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would put the old not close on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ancestral is just... Have you ever cast Divination?
I have.
Like, it's more than that, instant speed for a third of the cost.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they even print this card? You know,
it is funny when you look to modern, and I don't mean the format, but like, you know, current printing standards. That card costs 3 blue.
Yeah.
Like for the identical card, it costs 5, man. Right? You have to add on 3 of the blue to make that card fair. You know, it may, you know, not pushed at all, but come on.
Yeah, and
it's
it's
ridiculous.
It is the kind of effect you can actually put a price to, right? If you're thinking, you know, Black Lotus, what is the price on that? You're like, well, obviously, if it costs 2, then, you know, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get stuff like, you know, Lotus Bloom instead.
Yeah. Well, that is funny too, because you can look over the years at R&D attempting to, you know, nerf the power level of a card like Black Lotus. In different ways, and it just seems impossible, right? They printed Lion's Eye Diamond. They're like, fine, you don't get your hand anymore. Like, there's no way around this. And people are like, sure, I can work with that.
Yeah,
they were
it's
like,
actually better.
Yeah,
throw my Dredge cards in the graveyard.
Right. And then they tried Lotus Petal. They thought, okay, we'll make a little mini one. Just a little petal. It's like, no, that's way too good too. And then, like you said, they just started attacking mana cost or suspend cost. Just think. But even then, all of those have seen play.
Yeah, they have.
Basically, if it says Lotus on it, it's seen play, and it's probably not been fair when it was played one way or the other.
Yeah, and you see, even Gilded Lotus is, a very reasonable card. It's in play a lot. And yeah, it's just really hard to make this type of card work, but they're so iconic. It's like the Moxes, right? We've seen, Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, there's Mox Opal, those are all incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think they really hit the power level right with Mox Amber, the latest Mox, which is an interesting card that you can play, you can consider, but it's not going to be big. It's not. Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I'm waiting. I've learned my lesson. Like, I always thought that about Mox Opal. I thought that about all these cards, and then somebody breaks them at some point, and you're just going, how is this a thing?
Oh yeah, and
they get to play with the Mox,
It's definitely possible that the PT is next week. It's definitely possible we see this great Mox Amber deck, and I'm not saying we have it or we don't have it, on our team, but
little sneak preview.
Yeah.
Paulo's on the broken Mox Amber deck for the Pro Tour, so make sure you tune in. Then you're going to play like Black Green or something. Everybody's going to be disappointed in you.
There'll be one Mox Amber in my sideboard.
There you go.
To justify this conversation.
Yeah. just to maintain your reputation. All right, game number 2 incoming here. Players looking at their opening hands. And Kendra will, very importantly here, be on the play.
Yeah, that is very important.
She does not look happy with this hand, though.
No, she doesn't. And Humans is a deck that
kept it, though.
Yeah, its mulligans are very weird because you think, well, it's this deck that it's a Lord's deck, right?
Uh-huh.
Kinda, it works on critical mass, so mulliganing is bad,
right,
in theory. But also, you need an explosive draw.
Right.
You can't afford to keep a bad hand, and sometimes your 6-card hands just win the game on turn 4, right? You're not like a deck like Merfolk, where every other card gets worse the fewer that you have. You have cards like you can just go Mantis Rider, Phantasmal Image, you're dead.
So Kendra with a good start there. She's got the Champion of the Parish. Steven, on the other hand, well, he has a basic forest off of his wooded foothills. Yeah. And what does he have? Birds of Paradise.
Birds of Paradise, yeah.
Hello.
A blast from the past.
Yeah.
Speaking of Moxes and Lotus, there's Birds of Paradise.
Remember when that card was good? Boy. At least it casts his Lightning Bolt.
It does.
Noble Hierarch doesn't do that. Take that, Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, that is
Which
true.
is better in almost every other way, but he'll have to settle for a bop here.
Yeah, it is interesting that, Birds of Paradise is such a good card, and there's just a better one.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a function of the game having been around for so long at this point.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right. Cards rotate.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
It couldn't last forever, Birds of Paradise. You had a great run, though. Do you think Birds of Paradise is, spiteful about Noble Hierarch?
It might be.
I would be.
I mean, it's still, it's still going on. Still says play. It's right there. All right.
It's just on the battlefield, scornfully looking over at the Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, a Noble Hierarch is not legal in a lot of spots. It's like asking, do you think Stomping Grounds is spiteful of, Taiga or whatever?
And I do.
Though
I do think that.
Though I guess Birds came first, so it's not the same thing.
Right. It was also
it's
there
the
for a
opposite,
long time, right?
Yeah, maybe.
You get used to your position in life. Ooh, foil Tarmogoyf here for Steven. Look at that. If that was a Noble Hierarch, you could have gone in for a damage.
Yeah. And, Tarmogoyf is still very small, as it is.
Yeah. Well, it's 1/3 of maximum. It's at 1/2.
That is true. Oh, there might be a sorcery in the sideboard or something.
Oh.
No.
There's not.
No. I mean, there's some
Is there an
planeswalkers.
artifact or something?
Well, there's Nisa Vital Force.
Okay.
So that's probably not coming in this matchup, but in other matchups it does grow Tarmogoyf.
Okay.
And there is
Ooh.
Choke and Blood Moon.
Okay.
And Stony Silence. So if they kill those, or if you Night of Autumn those, I guess, you can grow your Goyf.
All right, so we have a pretty good exchange here. Kendra is going to lead things off for the turn with the Reflector Mage. That's going to return that Goyf back to hand. But even with the attack there, Steven had the Lightning Bolt off of the Birds of Paradise.
Yeah.
That's right, Bob, you do your thing. And that's going to kill the Champion of the Parish, which is really going to take the wind out of Kendra Smith's sails because that was her primary source of damage output at the moment.
Oh, well, that card, Thalia, Guardian of
Oof.
Thraben, that is,
Oof.
yeah, that is brutal. Oh, sorry, Thalia, Heretic Kartar,
Yeah.
the other one.
Yeah, Heretic Cathar. Also awkward. There's Noble Hierarch right now, the new kid on the block. Birds of Paradise begrudgingly taking the Exalted trigger. Or no, sorry. Oh, that really awkward. Birds of Paradise casting Noble Hierarch. Oh, boy.
Yeah, and here, that Thalia is, it just obviously nullifies all haste from cards like Mentus Rider, Phantasmal Image, copying them. It is not as brutal as it could be because Canada could just have a bunch of fetch lands, and then that would be really bad.
Yep.
But all her lands are going to come to play tapped, and all her creatures are going to come to play tapped, and she can't even attack past the Thalia because it's a 3/2 first strike. She can't block it either because attack is a 4/3. So
That card looks very nasty here. And, of course, the Humans deck not particularly well known for being able to kill opposing creatures.
no, definitely not. There is
Reflector Mage does some work in that category, but we already see one on the battlefield.
one Dismember in the sideboard.
Okay.
No, wait, sorry, that's a different list that I have here. I don't actually. Do I have Kendra's list?
It's probably in that pile somewhere.
Yep, there it is.
By the
yeah,
way,
there is one Dismember.
Sad Mantis Rider, you mentioned it a second ago, Paulo, but there it is. Enters the battlefield tapped. Oof.
Yeah, and we also see the Kasich Wolf run in Steven Pete's board, and that actually kills any Phantasmal Images. So the hidden mode on the Wolf run. So if Kendra is going to play one, she probably just wants to copy and enter the battlefield effect like the Reflector Mage rather than the Mentus Rider because that will just die as soon as Steven gets to activate the Kasich Wolf
Yeah,
run.
great point, Paulo, especially considering that they usually do want to copy the Mantis Rider as the damage output just ends up being overwhelming. And that will potentially not be a good line for Kendra Smith to take if she does find one. So Steven slowly but surely assembling a board that could dominate here. Though I will say, the Mantis Rider's there, and it does attack cleanly past Thalia and the Tarmogoyf on the ground and could start piling on significant amounts of damage starting with next turn.
Yeah, and that is the maximum Goyf again. That is a 3/4. And that Wolf run, it does also represent a lot of damage with all those birds and hierarchs that are in stuff.
Looks like he's going to add even more to the battlefield here. Boy, a Scavenging Ooze, and he also has another copy of Birds of Paradise, too.
Yeah, though at this point, if he taps the Scavenging Ooze, like if he taps the mana and uses the Scavenging Ooze, he actually shrinks the Tarmogoyf because there's only one creature in the graveyard.
He does.
So I would have just
Awkward.
played the Birds of Paradise there.
I would, too.
I don't think there's much reason to hold it. And you might even want to chump block with it because he gets to grow the Scavenging Ooze to a size where nothing can really block it.
Yeah, this game does look like it's shaping up where Kendra's going to have this pressure now, thanks to the Mantis Rider here, and now the Thalia's Lieutenant. But Steven has the long game if he can survive long enough to use his Scavenging Ooze, to use Kasich Wolf Run, and to overpower the board. Ooh, there's the Phantasmal Image. And she's just going to go for, like you said, an enters the battlefield effect here with the Thalia's Lieutenant, adding even more counters to her creatures. Boy, this board state has ballooned now for Kendra Smith. Bang, hit you for 5 in the air.
Yeah.
And Steven's actually, it looks like he may be considering chump blocking with the birds right now.
Yeah, I think I would. That Reflector Mage is now a 4/5, so you can't really Well, if you attack with the Scavenging Ooze, then it will get exalted. So it actually threatens to be a 5/5. So I think I would just chump block with the bird here.
There's only one other creature in graveyards right now. You see the Champion of the Parish up there for Kendra. That's it.
Yeah, now the Ooze can attack. It can threaten to be a 4/4. So there will have to be a Casting Wolf for an activation. And then all we will do is trade. So I really, really think Steven should have blocked with the bird there.
Yeah, he chose not to. He's down to 10.
Yeah, now it'll be interesting if he tries to use... that creature is still... The Phantasmagorian is still just a 1/1.
Right.
So he's not in a rush to kill it, but... Oh, yeah, that will grow the Tormaglyph. Sorry, that will grow the Scavenging Ooze as well. Who just uses it on a Phantasma image. So that would be an interesting play. He can actually attack with the Scavenging Ooze here, and if Kendra blocks with Reflector Mage, she will be blown out.
It looks like he's considering attacking here, although he's going to need some help here, is he not?
Well, he has the Casting Wolf run.
Okay,
So
and it's first strike. Okay,
yeah,
sure.
that is first strike.
Boy, but if she blocks with that Reflector Mage, it does commit Steven to tap quite a bit of mana here.
Yeah, she does.
She's just going to take the 4, drop down to 10. So 10 apiece now.
Yeah, I think I like that. There's no reason to throw your Reflector Mage away at this point. Like, you're not that interesting in committing Steven's mana, I don't think.
He does have quite a bit of mana at his disposal thanks to the 3 mana creatures. What does he have here?
I think that's Knight of Autumn. It would just be interesting to see which mode he chooses. So obviously he's not destroying anything.
Right, so he can either get a 4/3 or gain 4 life and have a 2/1. And he's going to go for the beef here. He wants the size down on the ground.
Yeah, I think I just lean towards more power here as well.
He is at a relatively precarious 10 life, but with 2 Birds of Paradise to act as blockers, it is going to be quite difficult for Kendra Smith to actually get through all of that damage.
Yeah, and she can't afford to fall too low because then any attacker represents lethal with that Casting Wolf run.
Well, she does have another copy of Mantis Rider. This one, of course, is going to enter the battlefield tapped. Oh my gosh, is that another Thalu's Lieutenant to cap this sequence off? My goodness sakes.
Yeah, and
boy,
the board just grew very, very big.
Oh, kidding. You can get a counter on the freshly cast Mantis Rider.
Yeah, that Lieutenant is tapped.
That's right.
They'll probably remember that very shortly. I mean, she's been tapping all the other creatures.
That's true.
Like, the Mantis Rider is tapped, right? The one that just gave me to play.
That's right. But we just need to make sure we get that Thalu's Lieutenant tapped as well. For blocking purposes, perhaps.
Yeah,
who knows, right?
Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
So now she's considering, do I attack with more, or do I just attack with the Mantis Rider?
Right, because all of a sudden, look at her board state on the ground, and she's got to do quite a bit of combat math to sort this thing out. Let's not forget that Steven does have Scavenging Ooze down there as well, so that could change the size of the board on the other side. The Mantis Rider in the air seems like the obvious attack, but the ground creatures are pretty big.
Yeah, I wonder if the Phantasma Image should have attacked.
Right, because it may not be long for this world anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see just trying to get something out of it while it's around. But she's not going to. She's just going to attack with the Mantis Rider. That's going to prompt a chump block on the Birds of Paradise. It floats green mana and then eats up
the champion of the
champion of the parish in the graveyard. And she's going to ship the turn back here to Steven. All right, let's see what Steven can come up with. He is hellbent. He has no cards in his hand. And we've got quite a built-out creature board state here in our round 2 in Atlanta. If you're just joining us, we're watching Modern. Welcome along. We've got Naya Zoo. And Naya, well, it's really just for Bolt, right? At least in the main deck.
Yeah.
It's a green-white deck primarily.
And Wild Nakado, I guess.
And then, filling out the power and toughness on a Wild Nakado. But on the other side, Humans, a deck that if you watch any Modern, you'll be well familiar with.
Yeah, now I don't think Steven can attack.
He has no
If
attacks
he-
here?
I don't think so, because if he attacks, he can grow that Thalia up to 8, right? It will be 5-4 from Exalted, then he has to activate Wolf Run and use 2 birds. So, it's a 7, actually.
It's at 5 right now, yeah.
So it will be a 7. So Kendra can just double block with the Thalia's Lieutenant and the Reflector Mage. And then he can't kill both. He does get to kill one. I mean, he gets to trade. That's not that bad.
Will he have to tap all of his mana to do that?
Not to trade because he still gets to, put
Should-
the damage in front of the Thalia.
Okay.
Ooh, now that is not going to work because now he
oh.
can Wolf Run the image and first strike down the Thalia's Lieutenant.
Oof, it works out perfectly for Steven as well. 5 power first strike versus 5 toughness on the Lieutenant. If he is aware of that interaction of Kessig Wolf Run, he
Yeah.
could just simply kill one of the double blockers here, and that is a disaster for Kendra.
Yeah, this double block doesn't really work out well. Oh, wow. There you go.
Okay, well, it works out well if Steven doesn't see it, so he doesn't know that, or at least chooses not to do so. And boy, Kendra has to breathe a sigh of relief there because now all of a sudden things are looking pretty good for her.
Yeah, the thing is that if Steven doesn't see it, then it works equally as well as just blocking with Reflector Mage and
Yeah,
the Lieutenant.
that's true.
So there's not any benefit for her, tricking him in this spot.
But there's certainly
because-
a downside.
Yeah, there is only a downside. So I have to
Yeah.
assume both players just forgot about it.
Right.
And, now if you're Kendra, say suddenly you remember, do you just play the entire game as if your opponent is never going to do that?
I don't think so.
Can you afford to do that? Just attack and live that as your blocker?
I mean, I would certainly consider it as an option, right? But I would still, if I remembered, I would assume that my opponent perhaps saw it and try to play accordingly. And looks like we're going to see the block and sack here once again from Steven. But boy, Kendra's just flying over for huge amounts of damage now.
Yeah, now I think she's really, really ahead.
Oh, and excuse me, I spoke a little too quickly. They're not the block and sack. That was actually Reflector Mage getting rid of the Birds of Paradise. So he just tapped it for mana to use the Scavenging Ooze in response. But he ends up taking the full assault in the air. And Kendra Smith is poised to win game number 2 and force a game 3 decider. Boy, oh boy. Down to 2 life for Steven. Not a lot he can do at this point. He's counting it out, and that's going to do it. Kendra Smith picks up game number 2 thanks to a pair of Mantis Riders with a whole bunch of counters on them, too.
Yeah, and that was... I think she would have probably won anyway because the Mantis Riders were just racing and they were really hard for Steven to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the thing is that the human stack, its board just grows so much bigger, right? It's kind
That's
of
right.
like quadratic in growth versus the linear growth of Steven's cards. And a lot of his creatures don't actually add any power. So if he's just adding 1, 3, 4 Tarmogoyf to the board, that's not doing anything as long as there's a 4/4 in Kendra's side. He can have 5 Tarmogoyfs that won't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has the flyers to push through, and he doesn't.
Right. Yeah, we really got to see in that game the raw power of one of the key cards in the deck for Kendra, which is Thalia's Lieutenant. I mean, that thing completely dominated that board. That's the card that allows Kendra to play much smaller creatures than Steven at face value, yet get herself into a board state there where she's staring down at much bigger creatures by the end of the game. Thalia's Lieutenant's super impressive at building out a board when your opponent isn't either killing you really quickly or killing a bunch of your creatures. And Steven has not had a draw yet where he's had the super aggressive start. He's had a lot of kind of mana creatures, mid-range stuff that you'll get with these type of decks. And Kendra taking advantage by using that time to build out. I mean, she's just dumped a dice box on top of her creatures that game.
Yeah, that she did. Yeah, there are a lot of removal spells in Steven's deck, so he could definitely disrupt Kendra, but hasn't really been the case here. And now he's on the play, though, and that deck really is much better on the play, especially if you're playing something like, a turn 2 Thalia Heretic Cathar. Like, that is such a nightmare for the humans deck to deal with. And, what is she boarding? She's boarding in 1 Dismember. And she also has 1 Riller Rogue that will let her push through. I think that's a card she will want in this game.
Okay.
And 2 Izzet Static Casters. I think
those
on the play, those are pretty good. On the draw, you probably still want them.
Yeah.
They're still good, I think. But
the Bops and the Noble Hierarchs. But you can even take out something like a Knight of Autumn that doesn't have counters, or
Yeah, it's still good, I think, and it helps in combat too. Like, it's not like it does nothing. If it's 1 extra damage in combat, but it's not the trump that it is against this type of deck usually. Yeah. It's still probably better than a random like Meddling Mage or something like that.
All right, Steven likes his opener. Let's see if Kendra's going to keep hers. I'll keep as well, she says, and we are underway here in game number 3. We're watching Modern all day today, all day tomorrow here from Atlanta. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe with Paulo Vitor Damarosa. We've got Brian David Marshall and Eduardo Sejgalik as well as our commentators for the other pair. And we are happy to bring you coverage of Modern. Hopefully we'll get to see some sweet new decks and some of the old standbys that we all love. Noble Hierarch kicks things off for Kendra Smith. Stephen Peets kicked things off on his own, though. Wild Nacatl.
And Steven Sand looks a bit flooded, I think. He doesn't actually have that much action, and he has no removal spells, and I think it will be kind of easy for Kendra to just outgrow this board.
Yeah, especially if she has one of those kind of threat-dense hands that you often see from the humans deck.
Yeah, the deck is basically all threats, right? So any hand with 6 cards in it is a threat-dense hand, unless you get really unlucky.
Yeah, unless she floods out a little bit, but much less likely to. How many lands does Kendra play?
19, I believe.
19, 20, 18. Yeah, it's always in that range.
19 with 4 Horizon Canopies. And she does have 4 Noble Hierarchs and 4 Aether Vials, which are, in the late game could be kind of lands, but even the Hierarchs trigger your Lieutenants or Champion of the Parishes, give you Exalted.
So he gets to attack for 3 here with Wild Nacatl, and then I think he's got another one. Yeah. So he's kind of on the traditional zoo curve out here with the Hierarch into a couple of Wild Nacatls, but I don't know if he has a lot to back that up. I think his hand is a pair of lands and maybe a Scavenging Ooze after that.
Yeah, and he had to attack for... The Wild Nacatl actually wasn't a... It was a 3/3 because of Exalted, but he doesn't actually even have all the types.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's just a 2/2.
That's right. All right. Well, she's going to miss again. The Kitesail Freebooters really tough against this deck from Steven. He actually has very few spells. It is a collected company build here. He's got a lot of creatures in there.
Yeah, and most of his spells you can just cast in response, right? They cost 1 mana.
Now, Kendra, though, has still been able to use that information, at least thus far, by either casting Meddling Mage or even just, having a human flyer that can pick up a bunch of counters can be good. So it's not a complete whiff. It's just not really optimal. Looks like Steven, though, does have Wooded Foothills. He's going to play that, and that will get the 2 Wild Nacatls up to full power. They're going to be 3/3s now. And he may just have one of those draws where he just turns Wild Nacatl sideways for a bunch of turns and keeps Kendra off balance.
Yeah, that could definitely be the case. I still think, it's not going to be very hard for her to make a board that can completely ignore Wild Nacatl. Like, she already has, I think, Reflector Mage and Thalia's Lieutenant.
Oh, okay. That's a good start right there. A 3/4, get rid of one of your Nacatls for a while, and...
is that a Path to Exile that he drew? That changes things, I think. He really wants to... At this point, he just wants to draw interaction for the rest of the game.
And there's that Scavenging Ooze, and yeah, I think you're right.
Because, if the path isn't there, we can even see something like Reflector Mage or Noble Hierarch play Thalia's Lieutenant, and then Steven can't even attack. Right, now Steven can actually attack.
Kendra's down to 11, and there it is. Thalia's Lieutenant, broom. Get that dice box out once again and start spraying them around. And she's even going to get in for a pretty hefty chunk. What is that, 4 damage here?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I think I would have liked. It is interesting because if you Reflector Mage the Hierarch, then there are no attacks from Stephen. Right now, Stephen can actually just attack with his Wild Mikado,
That's
and that would
interesting.
be a 4/4. But it is riskier if there is a removal spell for Stephen's.
Right,
side
because
of the
then
board.
both Nakados can come in, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Here's Knight of the Reliquary now for Steven, though he's going to rethink that for a moment. There it is. So something good to do down the line. Grow a nice big Knight. It's already got 3 lands in the graveyard.
Yeah, and that just
Casual 5/5.
Yeah, it brick walls every ground attacker at this point.
And as you mentioned, though, there still is an attack available here from Steven, thanks to the Noble Hierarch and its Exalted ability.
There could be a double block from Kendra, but
that'd be interesting.
I think she's just going to take the damage here. Like, if she double blocks, she will lose the 3/4 Reflector Mage and kill the Wild Nakado, but the thing is that she's only killing a 3/3 because it's the Noble Hierarch that's making it a threat, right? And then she'll actually grow the Scavenging Ooze into a 4/4 because there will be 2 creatures in the graveyard. So I think at this point, she just doesn't want to put stuff in the graveyard.
Oof. She's going to take a different line there, Paulo. She's going to chump block now with Thalia's Lieutenant.
Yeah, she's probably afraid of just dying to a Cassic Wolfrun, right? Because there is that Knight of the Reliquary in play that can search for the Wolfrun, and if she falls too low, she'll just die to trample damage.
Ooh, she drew a Manus Rider for the turn here.
Yeah, that is really good. And she can actually just attack with the Mentis Rider. It would be as much damage as attacking with the Freebooter as well.
Right.
So she's not actually adding a lot of damage to her.
No.
She's actually adding 1 damage.
But it is kind of interesting given that we know Steven has a Path to Exile in his hand,
Oh, yeah.
and she has to consider those type of cards. Even a Lightning Bolt could kill either of those.
Yeah, she does. And it's interesting that Steven, he tapped down to his red source, so he's representing not a Lightning Bolt, for sure, because he had 2 red sources, he tapped both.
Right.
Or I think he had 3. He tapped all 3. So he's making a statement.
Yep.
The same as, I don't have Lightning Bolt.
Right. The question is, do you have Path?
Yeah,
and the answer
that
is
is it.
yes, I do. And he's going to use Path to Exile right now to kill that Mantis Rider. And she did decide, by the way, to just attack with the Mantis Rider, meaning she's going to get 0 damage in this turn.
Yeah. She does get the Freebooter. I understand why she would do that, because now she gets the Freebooter that, makes it harder for Steven to attack, because she can double block, she can triple block. Like, now the Reliquary at this point is attacking as a 6/6. Right? She can actually block with 3 of her creatures and kill it. So that will grow the Scavenging Ooze much bigger. So she's in a tough spot here.
Yeah, and of course she was able to look over at the other side and see that he couldn't cast Bolt, so it was only Path that she had to worry about. But he did have it. Scavenging Ooze growing ever larger, though there's no more food for it at the moment.
Yeah, I think this type of thing, tapping all your sources in a color to represent not having something, is very interesting because, why are you doing that? If I'm your opponent and I'm thinking about it, like, why are you doing this? You're telling me you don't have Lightning Bolt for no reason. Like, you could have kept Stomping Ground up, you kept Forest instead. So why are you saying this to me? And the best conclusion that I can come up with is, well, it's because you have something else that is similar to Lightning Bolt. Like, you don't want me playing around Lightning Bolt, so you make it so that I can't.
Right.
And that is because you have a card that's similar to that. So this type of thing can actually backfire from sometimes, but then you also start thinking, the whining for enough me type thing. Well, my opponent knows that I know this, that I'm thinking this. So,
Whew, look at this quad block for Kendra. She's going to throw the team in front of that Knight of the Reliquary and say, I don't think you have anything.
yeah, if there is something, then she's in a lot of trouble,
But she probably figures that she's going to have a hard time beating that Knight of the Reliquary over a long game anyway, and she just needs to bite the bullet here, and that's what she's going to do.
yeah, I know, I like that.
Yeah.
I think there is, I guess it doesn't really matter. There is 1 Noble Hierarch thrown in for good measure.
Yeah,
That
this is 6 damage that Steven gets to distribute here. Basically can kill 2 things, right?
Yeah, he can kill 2, but not the 2 biggest ones.
Right. So he's going to kill 2 of the smaller things. But Knight of the Reliquary off the battlefield now for Kendra.
That's definitely a good trade for her. Though, again, it does grow the ooze.
Yeah, the ooze is a problem. And now she's got a Tarmogoyf. Or Steven has a Tarmogoyf as well as a Wild Nikado, so he kind of has one of those draws where he just gets to flood the board with threats.
It's interesting that having 2 Wild Nikados in play, he still chose to kill the 2/3 flyer over the 3/4 ground creature.
Yeah, it's strange.
So
it's a lot of respect to the fact that Kendra may try to race or something, because now he just has to stare at those 2 Nikados. They can't attack.
Yeah, he still has good attacks. Like,
yes.
I guess the Tarmogoyf is, the maximum, it's a 3/4.
Yeah, Max Goyf.
Yeah, and then the Scavenging Ooze will outgrow anything that she has in play, so it's still in a good spot. And now he didn't exile things.
Yeah, why didn't he use his mana there?
I don't know. I'm confused. Probably just forgot.
He probably just forgot, yeah.
But yeah, you see now their attacks are a bit tricky because the Tarmogoyf might get, double blocked by the Hierarch and the Reflector Mage, and then the Goyf dies. So I think either you attack with everything or just with the ooze. I think attacking with everything is probably better because then, yeah, you're losing one of your creatures, but
at the cost of a lot of damage to Kendra here. This is a big attack now for Steven.
Yeah, I like
rowdy.
That. And then any combat that happens, again, also grows the Scavenging Ooze. So Scavenging Ooze is a card that is very hit or miss against humans because they're not killing your creatures. And you're not usually killing theirs because Path to Exile exiles, and there's only Lightning Mode. So there are a lot of games in which you just play an Ooze and it's a 2/2 that goes into a 3/3, and it's just very disappointing. But then there are the games where combat's happening and the games go super long, and then it just gives you life so that you can raise the flyers and outgrows everything.
It's going to snowball here pretty big time for Steven. He's still getting in for a nice hit of damage with his Tarmogoyf and the Wild Nikado. He is losing a Nikado in the process, but he's decimating her board. She still loses yet another creature. And wow, another follow-up here for Steven. He is ripping nice. He's got a Knight of the Reliquary, and this one looks like it's about done. Kendra Smith down to 5 life with no real way to try to force a race situation here, and facing down big threats no matter what she does this turn. Even a Reflector Mage wouldn't get her out of it.
No, because there's just too many things. Like the Scavenging Ooze is a very powerful threat on its own, as is the Knight of the Reliquary. So now he actually capped the mountain up and not the green mana for Scavenging Ooze. So you're driving me crazy here, Steven, with the stepping. Auriok Champion, a card that is not for this matchup. Doesn't have relevant protections, but does gain life. It is a bit late to the party, though. Could have gained about 10 life if she played it on turn 2, but on turn 8 or whatever, it's not going to do much because the protection is not relevant. Oh, are they on time?
Yes, it does look like they are.
Oh, I see. So now the Knight of the Reliquary can get a Cassic Wolfred, right? And how many lands does he have? He has 6 mana, so the cast roll would be 7. So he can give +4. So I think he actually just has... I think if he just attacked with the other 3 creatures, he would have lethal. Because the Knight of the Reliquary could get Wolfrun, and that could pump whichever creature the Auriok Champion blocked.
Right.
And that would just trample over for more than 5. And now he's still going to win the game. He's not going to win the game immediately, though.
Right. He will have to do it on his last turn.
Yeah.
On the last turn, as it were. Kendra Smith is now scrapping it out, trying to get a draw out of this round number 2. But I don't think she's going to be able to do it.
Well, now if she draws Reflector Mage, she just might. Right? She bounces an Outer Reliquary, and then she chump blocks the other 2 creatures. And she actually gets a draw. Or Phantasmal Image, that also works. But it looks like she didn't.
Oh, she has a pair of lands in hand, and Steven Peets is going to take this one down 2-1 in a very creature-heavy matchup here in round number 2 as players were fighting it out on the ground, right? You know, when you come into an older format like Modern, you never really know what you're going to get as far as that goes. Sometimes it's all stack-based stuff with like a Storm deck or something like that. Sometimes it's a control deck where there's nothing that actually gets to sit on the battlefield for any amount of time. Sometimes it's Lantern with a whole bunch of random artifacts that you have to read every time you see them played. And this one, This one ends up being creatures, the good old-fashioned way, a whole board state full of creatures crashing into each other, and I like that still happens in Modern.
Yeah, I mean, those games are very complicated. When
Yeah.
we think complicated games, we think, oh, those control mirrors and whatnot. But, when it's you playing creatures and me killing them, not complicated.
Yeah.
But when it's both of us playing creatures and the board gets big and everything has an ability, those games are quite tricky to navigate.
Yeah, and they certainly were here. That's going to do it for our live coverage here in round number 2. When we come back from these messages, we will have Time Walk. Don't go anywhere. Hey there, welcome back to the booth here at GP Atlanta. That's Paulo Vitor da Rosa. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Thanks so much for coming along for coverage of a Modern. This is one of our favorite formats to cover, and we've got Time Walk Magic for you right now. So this is game number 2 of Jordan Berkowitz versus Stuart Brinkman. A cool matchup here, Paulo. We've got Bant Spirits, a deck. It's one of your favorite decks in the format, right?
Oh yeah, it is. It's the new version of Fairies.
That's right. You get to play everything on your opponent's turn. But this is a deck that's relatively new, right, with a few additions from recent sets, but even newer. It says Izzet Phoenix, but really this is a mono red or a red-based deck here, using Arclight Phoenix, new card from Guilds of Ravnica, and Runaway Steamkin as well, to power out what? I mean, tell us what it does.
Yeah, so the idea is that you throw Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard, you play Runaway Steamkin, and then you play Rituals and Metamorphoses and Fateless Lootings, and then you have 4 Battling Revelers, which are going to be really cheap, are going to draw you cards. So it really is sort of an engine deck. Like it operates like a combo deck, but it's also an aggro deck. Like it's not combo in the sense the Storm is combo, where I'm doing nothing, but then here's everything, you're dead.
Right.
You're doing things as the game progresses. Those things combo with each other, but sometimes you don't get the combo you used to win because you're attacking, you're casting removal spells. So it's a real deck that has a combo element to it. And that combo seems to have been swiftly shut down, though, by Rest in Peace.
Oops.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that, we see, what are the new cards from this set? Arclight Phoenix, Crippling Chill.
Yep.
Right? And then this type of deck, both decks, they're weak to Graveyard Hate.
Yeah, indeed.
So when I was talking to my teammates who were playing in this event, they're like, well, I'm just going to play the same deck that I was playing a month before, but with 3 extra Graveyard Hate cards in my sideboard. Like, that has been, I think, the biggest change that people have made. At least people who didn't test extensively for this event, they're just going to be like, well, instead of playing 2 Resting Peace, I'll play 4. Right, I'll play some Ley Lines. And that's what I would have done if I were playing in this event. I would probably just be playing Bant Spirits with more Resting Pieces than I had before.
Jordan's going to play Tormenting Voice, discarded Desperate Ritual, but of course those are all getting exiled.
Yeah, and cards like Tormenting Voice and Fateless Looting, they're really much, much worse if you can't use the graveyard in any way.
Right.
But, Jordan still has a deck. He still has Monastery Swiftspear, Runaway Steamkin, he has Lightning Bolt, he even has Lava Spike.
You can cast Arclight Phoenix, it turns out.
You can, yeah.
It's only 4 mana. Although that Bedlam Reveler that he's got pulled up in his hand to discard, that one's a little tougher to
It's only 8.
It's a little tougher. Probably going to see him get rid of that one.
I would hope so.
Also, it looks like Anger of the Gods from the sideboard here for Jordan is going to get discarded to the exile zone. What is that, Rattle Change there for Stuart?
Yep.
Gets in for a couple. So a clock has formed.
And there is a negate, I think, in Stuart's hand, which is maybe not the greatest card against this deck. In fact, I would probably just have negated this Metamorphose, because I don't think it's going to get that much better.
Path to Exile is going to get the Arclight Phoenix and send it permanently packing.
Yeah, you can also consider pathing your own creature in this spot, but I don't actually know what the rest of his hand is. I think he has another path and negate. So he's not actually, it's not like he has a lot to do and is missing a land. But
And he does have a little clock going here with this Rattle Chain, so
yeah.
Tack in for another 2. Another Arclight Phoenix here, it looks like, for Jordan.
And Jordan is probably very upset he discarded a Battling Reveler now.
He's getting there. Look at this.
I mean, next turn he can cast it.
Oh, man. Well, maybe he has another one in his hand.
He might, yeah. Still, you don't want to cast it next turn, I think, even if you can, because he still has more cards in hand.
Yeah, good point. Here's a Braid to kill Rattle Chains while the shields are relatively down there for Stuart. So we're back to square one on the battlefield. Jordan Berkowitz, tons of mana at his disposal, and not a lot for Stuart. And by the way, there it is. Oh, he does have the Bedlam Reveler, and he's just going to throw it in. What does he discard? A mountain? Something I can't quite see, but reload 3 more cards in hand. Wow, those Path to Exiles really helping out. Temple Garden's going to cast the Noble Hierarch there and finally give Stuart his 3rd mana, but is it too late?
I think it's just going to die. Like, Jordan is playing mono red.
Yeah.
There's no way that thing's living.
Good point, especially after he just drew 3 extra cards, and now he's going to Faithless Looting away 2 more mountains. Boy, Drawing a lot of lands in conjunction with the Path to Exiles powering out his stuff.
Yeah, it looks like he's just powering through their resting piece.
Yeah, so far he's cast 2 Arclight Phoenixes and as well as the Bedlam Reveler just hard cast.
Yeah, and a bunch of Fateless Lootings.
It's going to attack it now. A Braid has found a target. Thank you very much. Going to get a Prowess trigger there as well. And Stuart Brinkman's life total is starting to really fall. He's down to 14.
Yeah, and I mean, Bedlam Reveler hits for a lot.
Jordan using his burn spells on his turn so he can get those triggers. It's not like mana efficiency is a major issue here at this point. And he's going to discard Desperate Ritual to a Tormenting Voice to try to find more action. He is churning through his library.
Blood Moon?
Ooh. He's got Blood Moon and Runaway Steamkin, so he leads off with the Steamkin so he can get a counter on off the Blood Moon.
Yeah, I think he's doing all right this game.
This does seem to be going pretty well for him, doesn't it? Does he have a Bolt, too?
Yeah, I think Stuart really did not expect to lose this game. Oh, he has Worship in hand. So
no.
Stuart could actually still win if he draws Plains. Well, now it has to be a specific land.
Actual Plains, right. Oh, no.
And another.
He needs 2 lands, one of them to be a Plains.
Yeah, but now it's too late,
Not
I think.
Feeling like this land drop is the nails in the coffin here for Stuart Brinkman. And there's another Steamkin triggering the other Steamkin.
Yeah, I think he just has to take the damage here, and then he will die to the Lightning Bolt that is in Jordan's hand.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
I think if he chump blocks, he can't win anymore.
And there it is, Lightning Bolt to finish the thing. He's got the negate in his hand still to survive a turn, but he's going to be at 1.
Yeah, he's going to be at 1.
Okay. Go ahead. And that's going to do it. Jordan Berkowitz does it the old-fashioned way. Just faces down a Rest in Peace on the second turn of the game and just calmly casts a bunch of, I guess we would call them fair creatures, for their full mana cost and wins the game anyway. So
yeah, it's interesting because in those Resting Pieces games, usually the red player is discarding those lands to Fateless Looting, to Tormenting Voice, so you don't actually get to 8. But when people path you a lot, then you do.
So we're going to take a short break because we got to transition over to our live tables and bring BDM and Eduardo back in the booth. So another short commercial break. Apologies for that, but when we come back, we'll be back with more Modern here from Atlanta. See you in a few.